Free or die.
Free or die.
Now you are free.
Yes.
And we will be.
And the Russians are dying.
It's the best money we've ever spent.
Thank you so much.
No, it's...
This is my video update from Nicosia, Cyprus on this Sunday midday. Let's talk about some news. And the big story for today, it's the elections in Turkey. The second and final round of voting is taking place in the presidential elections in Turkey. And we will either have a new president or more Erdogan. So these are really important elections taking place in Turkey. And it's a story that we will be following very closely. I think the whole world is following these elections in Turkey very closely. Now let's talk about Lindsey Graham's trip to Kiev. The chief head honcho neocon warmonger Lindsey Graham made his third trip to Kiev since the start of the special military operation. He's been to Kiev 3 times, at least 3 times that we know of. And Lindsey Graham, he went to Kiev to deliver a message. Actually, I actually think he went to Kiev to deliver 2 messages. One message on the record, one message off the record. He also said some pretty nasty stuff about Russia and Russian soldiers. Remember, Lindsey Graham, he has called for the assassination of Vladimir Putin. I believe he's on the record twice calling for the assassination of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Anyway, on the record, Lindsey Graham met with Zelensky, and he told Zelensky that Ukraine has bipartisan congressional support for as long as it takes. Republicans, Democrats, they support Project Ukraine no matter what. They will get more money and more weapons. That was his on-the-record statement to Zelensky. And Zelensky asked for more weapons and more money. Lindsey Graham, welcome back to Kiev. Good to have you back to Kiev. Please have a seat. And where's my money? I need to buy some homes. Lindsey Graham, he then said some very nasty stuff about Russia and Russian soldiers. He said that dead Russian soldiers, it's the best money we've ever spent. We, as in the United States of America, Congress. Dead Russian soldiers, the best money Congress has ever spent. That's an actual statement from Lindsey Graham to Zelensky. Lindsey Graham also said that since the Battle of Bakhmut, they were talking about the Battle of Bakhmut, him and Zelensky, since that battle, the Russian military is done. Russia is done. So the Battle of Bakhmut has actually resulted in the end of Russia, according to Lindsey Graham. Now that's what he told Zelensky on the record, and the Zelensky regime, they put out a slick video with Lindsey Graham hugging it out with Zelensky, and it has this really like calm, inspirational piano music playing in the background, and just more PR propaganda video stuff that the Zelensky regime and the Hollywood scriptwriters put out to promote Lindsey Graham's trip to Kiev. And that was all on the record for public consumption, right? And all of this is happening, by the way, as there's a huge debate about the U.S. debt ceiling. right? So Lindsey Graham, instead of being in the United States, and I don't know, maybe dealing with the negotiations or contributing to finding a solution to the U.S. Debt ceiling problem, he decided to go to Kiev in order to tell Zelensky that whatever happens with the debt ceiling, with those negotiations, don't worry, money for Ukraine is going to be okay. And that is exactly what happened, because it does look like we have some sort of deal for the debt ceiling to resolve the debt ceiling problem. And from what I understand, the military-industrial complex and money to Ukraine will not be affected. Other programs that are meant for the American people, that benefit the American people, those programs are going to be cut or capped or cut. But money budgeted to the military-industrial complex and to Ukraine, from what I understand, is not going to be affected. So this was all stuff that Lindsey Graham was telling Zelensky on the record. Off the record, this is what I believe Lindsey Graham told Zelensky, and what I believe was the main reason for Lindsey Graham's trip to Kiev. Off the record, I think Lindsey Graham told Zelensky that the delays are over. Enough of the delays. It's time to get the big spring, winter, fall, spring, summer, fall counteroffensive going. That is what I think was the main purpose of Lindsey Graham's trip to Kiev. I think the neocons, the Biden White House, they're tired of waiting. They understand that the Zelensky regime has been delaying because they don't want to go through with the counteroffensive, and they know that. And they've played along with it. They've given more money to the Zelensky regime. They've given the Zelensky regime more weapons and ammunition from South Korea and Storm Shadow long-range missiles from the UK, and now they've promised the F-16s. All of this stuff makes no difference in the outcome of the conflict. But these were the delay tactics that the Zelensky regime implemented, so they can buy some time. And the Biden White House played along, but now I think the Biden White House and the neocons, they've had enough waiting. They want the offensive. This is not a military decision. This is a political decision. The Biden White House wants this offensive to get underway. So that is what I believe Lindsey Graham actually told Zelensky. The delays are over. Zelensky, my man, he said, it's time for you to start the offensive. That's what he told him. Anyway, that is Lindsey Graham in Kiev. Now let's discuss the 11th sanctions package from the European Union. This is a good story to talk about. So Politico, they put out an article yesterday, and Politico claims that the EU's 11th sanctions package against Russia is being blocked. Now, take a guess which two countries are blocking the 11th sanctions package. Hungary. Yes, Hungary, of course. Hungary is blocking it. But the second country is a surprise, and that is Greece. Greece is also blocking the sanctions package, the EU sanctions package. Now, why is Greece and Hungary, why are they blocking the 11th sanctions package? Well, because the first 10 were so effective, they don't want the 11th to go through, because the 11th is going to be devastating for Russia. No, that's not it. That is not it. They are blocking the sanctions package because the Zelensky regime, they've placed various companies from all over the world, including US companies, but they've placed various companies, including Hungarian and Greek companies, on a hit list. You know, they have a list for everything, the Zelensky regime. They have a kill list. They have a company hit list. They have a sanctions list. Anyway, they've placed Greek and Hungarian companies on a hit list. And they claim that these Greek and Hungarian companies are not following the first 10 sanctions and that they should be punished. And the Greek government and the Hungarian government are concerned because they're worried that this hit list, this company hit list from the Zelensky regime will eventually result in Greek and Hungarian companies eventually being sanctioned by the European Union. Now, the EU, they claim that Ukraine's hit list, their company hit list, and the 11th sanctions packages, or any sanctions packages from the EU, are two different things. But rightly, the Hungarians and the Greeks, they say that sooner or later, the Ukraine company hit list and the EU sanctions are going to merge into one. And pretty soon the EU is just going to say, okay, Zelensky, hand me a list of companies that you believe are bypassing our sanctions, and we'll shut them down. And that is what the Greek and the Hungarian governments are worried about. The list that Ukraine runs for companies is called the war sponsors list. That's what they call it, the war sponsors list. And it's put together by the Ukrainian National Agency on Corruption Prevention, the NACP, the Ukrainian Agency for Corruption Prevention. The most corrupt country in all of Europe has an agency for corruption prevention. And they're actually placing Hungarian, Greek, American, German companies on a corruption list. Ukraine is placing companies on a corruption list. The war sponsors list is what they call it. Basically, companies that they say are still operating in Russia or have subsidiaries in Russia or have bank accounts in Russia or pay taxes from their subsidiaries in Russia or whatever, have some sort of presence in Russia. They want these companies shut down. Greece and Hungary are concerned about this. Eventually, they say the European Union is just going to get lazy and they're just going to say, you know what, in their 12th or 13th sanctions package, they're just going to tell the Zelensky regime, just give us a list of all these companies that you feel are sponsoring Putin's war machine, and we'll shut them down. And that's going to be bad for business, for Greece and for Hungary. For Greece, it would be really bad because I imagine you're going to be looking at a lot of shipping companies. A lot of shipping companies are probably going to be affected. And keep in mind that Mitsotakis, the Greek prime minister, though his party won the elections last week, they didn't get a clear majority. And in order to avoid setting up a coalition, Mitsotakis has opted for a second round of elections in order to try and get a strong majority and avoid having to form a coalition. So for Greece, for Mitsotakis, blocking the 11th sanctions package in order to protect businesses and what I believe are the big oligarchs and the shipping companies looks good for him as he makes a move to try and get an outright majority and mandate to govern. And I believe those elections, the second elections, are slated for June 25th. So this is a political move for Mitsotakis. Borrell said in this political article, Borrell said that if there's one thing that all of the EU member states agree on. It's that they want an 11th sanctions package. I don't know if Hungary agrees to that, but according to Borrell, they want more sanctions because the first 10 sanctions have been working so well. They worked so well that they sent Germany into a recession. That's how well it's worked. That's how effective those 10 sanctions packages have been. Anyway, that's what Politico claims. I'm sure they'll find a way to convince Greece and Hungary to vote for the 11th. Actually, let's walk this way. For the 11th sanctions package, they'll find a solution. But they are right. I do agree with what Hungary and Greece are saying, which is that eventually the EU is just going to take Ukraine's company hit list, and they're just going to use that list in order to sanction companies in Europe. So that is the article from Politico, an interesting article, no doubt. Interesting because Greece is one of the countries blocking the 11th sanctions package. Interesting because the EU is stupid enough to put out an 11th sanctions package. I mean, man, I am telling you, the EU just doesn't get it, do they? They don't get it. It's political. They have to do it. They have no choice, do they? If they stop coming up with sanctions packages, it's an admission of defeat. Even though they have been defeated, they just can't admit it. So politically, they're just going to continue to put out sanctions packages after sanctions packages, 11, 12, 13, 14, 58, 68, 108. They're just going to keep on coming up with sanctions packages after sanctions packages. It's just not going to end. At least as long as they're in power, they're going to keep on coming up with sanctions packages. So let's do a story, an update on Nord Stream. Let's talk about Nord Stream because we have another German publication. This time, Der Spiegel. Der Spiegel put out an article, and they claim that investigators have more evidence that the bombing of Nord Stream was done by Ukrainians. A couple of days ago, we had another German publication that said Ukrainians were behind the Nord Stream bombing. And yesterday, we get Der Spiegel coming out with an article say that they have additional evidence which points to Ukraine. Now, what is this evidence? According to Der Spiegel, they have metadata from an email sent to rent the yacht, to rent the yacht to the company that's renting the yacht. An email was sent. They have the metadata. The yacht, of course, is the Andromeda. They're sticking with the Andromeda story, by the way. And they say that this metadata points to Ukraine nationals, including the president of a shell company that is located in Ukraine. The president of a shell company that rented the yacht lives in Kiev, according to Der Spiegel. The president of a shell company that rented the yacht lives in Ukraine. So you have Ukrainians involved in this. Ukrainians, it seems like what they're saying is you have Ukrainians that were involved in the actual sabotage, the 5 guys, a female doctor, and the Andromeda yacht. That was Ukrainians. And it looks like what Der Spiegel is saying is that this metadata points to the actual company that rented the yacht as having connections to Ukraine as well. An interesting development. So anyway, you slice it or dice it, you have Ukraine all over the Andromeda story. And the German media, there is no doubt that the German media, they want to point all of this towards Ukraine. They want Ukraine to take the blame for for Nord Stream. Now, Der Spiegel asks the question, all of this new evidence, does it mean that it was Ukrainian commandos not connected to the Zelensky government working on their own to blow up Nord Stream? Or did the Zelensky regime authorize all of this stuff? Der Spiegel asks that question. So, no doubt about it, the German media, they are pointing at Kiev for Nord Stream. Kiev did it. That is what the German media is conclusively saying. Now, why? Why are they doing this? Why are they throwing Ukraine under the bus? Why is Germany throwing Ukraine under the bus? Well, I think three reasons. Three reasons that I could come up with. Perhaps in the future, not now, but maybe in the future, blaming Ukraine for Nord Stream is a good way to provide an off-ramp for Germany from Project Ukraine. So the German government can say, well, we're going to stop funding Ukraine, we're going to stop sending weapons to Ukraine, we're out because they blew up our pipeline. So that's a very nice, convenient off-ramp if the German government wants to use it. So that could be the first reason. The second reason, maybe it's about deflecting attention away from Bidenopolis and the Biden White House. So maybe Germany is doing the Biden White House a favor by running stories that blame Ukraine so they could draw attention away from the fact that it was actually the Biden White House, according to Seymour Hersh, that blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. That could be another reason for this. And the third reason that Germany is blaming Ukraine for Nord Stream is so that the collective West can add more pressure on Zelensky. They can put more pressure and get more leverage on the Zelensky regime by telling the Zelensky regime, this story can go one of two ways, Zelensky. Either you do as we tell you to do, and if you follow orders, then we will make sure to find evidence which shows that your government did not authorize the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage. Or if you do things that we do not approve of, like, say, negotiate with the Russians or continue to delay the big counteroffensive, well, then we just may find evidence which shows that your government did authorize the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage. So I don't know, maybe all of the recent articles on Nord Stream which seem to implicate Ukrainians, maybe this is all a way for the collective West or for the Europeans to exert some sort of pressure or leverage on the Zelensky regime. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Why do you think the German media all of a sudden is running so many articles pointing to Ukraine with regards to the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage? So let's do a quick clown world to wrap this video up. A very quick clown world. And this clown world comes from the former German foreign minister, Sigmar Gabriel, who gave an interview the other day, I believe on, I think it was on German TV, but I'm not quite sure what channel he gave this interview to, but he gave an interview the other day, and he said, and I quote, "The Ukrainian counteroffensive will be the biggest battle in Europe since World War II." The biggest battle in Europe since World War II. Yeah, they've got to get a counteroffensive started. Like they need a counteroffensive going right away because they have built this thing up to huge historic levels. Not only has Zelensky hyped up the counteroffensive, but the Europeans, they have really, really hyped up this counteroffensive. Boy, oh boy, have they hyped it up. Anyway, that's the statement from the former foreign minister of Germany. And I'm going to end this Sunday video with that statement. Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, and Telegram, and go to the Duran shop. 10% off. Use the code GOOD DAY. Take care.